they are not qualified. They don't pay their judges enough. And I strongly believe that they're just pocketing money for themselves, and they're not really doing it for the community. They're just there to get money for themselves.
All right. So, hello everyone. Welcome back to Dance for Life Academy and my episode 2 of this ZOOMCAST, whatever we like to call it. Today we have Nancy with us and Bert Lee. And I guess I just want to start off how I started off the last episode, and that is just to kind of just introduce yourselves. And this is a dancing Zoomcast, so talk about what got you into dancing, and then like what you did for the past, I don't know, 5-10 years leading up to what you did now, or what you do now, and what you do now, what you did before the pandemic hit, pretty much. Yeah. Um, so I'll start off with Nancy, ladies first.
Oh, thank you. Well, my name is Nancy, and I guess a little background about me. I am the youngest in my family, so I have 5 brothers and 2 sisters. So I grew up with brothers. How I started dancing was pretty much because I was going through a really, really deep, a really, really low moment in my life. I got out of a 4-year relationship because my ex cheated on me, and I went to college. I did not know who, it was college, and I didn't know who was, I didn't know anyone, and I was really, really sad. And one of my friends was like, hey, like, let's go and attend like this dance workshop. And I was like, what? No, it's too late. I don't want to do it. She's like, come on, let's just go and do it. So I was introduced to dance, to hip hop specifically in college. But then I used to do traditional dancing, when I was a kid. So I did traditional Hmong dancing when I was in elementary, all the way up until I was in middle school. I wasn't, when I was getting older, I didn't have the privilege to go out because, traditional Hmong girl, you can't go out, you can't do anything. You can only go to school, come home, and cook and clean after everyone. So since I was the only girl left in the family, I had to do that. So from elementary to middle school, I did a lot of traditional dancing. And then from middle school to high school, I did more so like, it's not really hip-hop-ish. I think it's more so just like K-pop, kind of jazz kind of style with my cousin. And then college, I went to hip-hop. So when I went to hip-hop, I went and took my first hip-hop class, and it was from hip-hop. And then from there, I just fell in love. So the whole reason why I started like into like getting really into seriously into dancing was because it was like my main source of happiness during that time. And it was something that made me feel like I could be myself, because I knew I wanted to dance. I knew I had a passion for it, but that I never had the chance to, because my mom was always like, we can't afford it. Hmong girls aren't supposed to dance. You're just supposed to cook and clean and do nothing else. So, I didn't have the opportunity to really start dancing or like really dive into dancing until I went to college. From there, I started dancing, with hip hop more. I became a board member eventually, and I went on and joined, like PSA Modern, which is the Filipino Student Association Modern group. And from there I went on and started doing more competitions. So I, after the PSA Modern, I joined another team called MN Motion, and I went, to compete at World Dance. And we did that. I did that for about 2-3 years. I don't remember how long I was with them, but afterward, I met my husband, and we ended up creating another team called Elite Family. So from MN Motion, we moved to Elite Family, and right now we're still running 6 year strong. And that's currently what I'm doing right now. So right now what I'm currently doing is, I run 2 dance team, Elite Family, plus I run another an all-women's team, a sisterhood called Genobays, and then which they're under GXG. And then I'm currently an instructor at House of Dance Twin City, where we focus solely on breaking and hip hop. I don't break, but I teach the hip hop aspect of the classes. And just from my college year until now, I've just been doing training more. I learned, I was a kind of, I was a self-taught kind of student. So I just attended a bunch of workshops and, started learning more from the people in the community. And that was pretty much how I developed my skills and stuff, and, how I came to where I am now. What else about my dance journey? Throughout my whole dance journey with Lee family, I eventually got married. I eventually had a kid. So, I, not right now, like on top of like dancing and being a mom and, being a wife and a nya and all this stuff, I'm also like, working full time and all, being the backbone to my family. So I have like, I'm like the mother of all trade. I have to do everything, but I love it. I love it because one of my biggest reason why I continue this is, I want to be a prime example to a lot of Hmong women that you can do it. If you really, really want to do it, you can do it. And, there's no one can stop you except yourself. So just a little bit about my dance journey.
Wow. That was like, that was good.
I'm trying not to forget stuff. So I'm just like, what else am I doing? Because I find that I don't give myself a lot of credit. So I'm like, what else do I do? So, yeah.
Nancy, you just spark noted your entire life in like 3 seconds, in like a minute, which is good.
Figuring it out.
All right, well, you can start again, Bert.
Yes. I started my very first time dancing was actually breakdancing in middle school. And you know how nowadays, people are playing volleyball or flag football, but then back in the early 2000s, dancing was what makes you cool. So I wanted to be part of the cool kids. And I remember in the cafeteria and atrium, my friends and I would always be breakdancing. So I was breakdancing from middle school all the way until my high school year. And the whole motivation for that was just I wanted to be a cool kid. I wanted to have fun and I wanted to fit in somehow because that was my identity. And it wasn't until I hit high school where I started to go to like b-boy battles, and I really saw the enthusiasm and energy that all the b-boys and b-girls I met would bring to the floor. And I was like, man, if they're taking it seriously, I want to take it seriously too. So then I took breakdancing seriously until my junior year in high school, and then I went snow sledding, and then I went up a ramp and I tilted to my left a little bit and my left arm fell out and I broke my arm. And that kind of ruined my dreams of continuing as a breakdancer because I was afraid to break my bones again. And because of that accident, my parents always like tell me not to stop breakdancing because I might break it again. So I was really scared. And that's how I transitioned over into more of hip hop because I still wanted to dance, and I transitioned over to hip hop. And I met this really cool dude. His name is Royce Bates in my senior year, and he taught me all about hip hop, tutting and waving. And it wasn't until I went to my first dance battle, and a lot of the dancers there weren't doing hip hop moves. They were doing like or urban styles. They were doing the traditional ones, popping. And I was like, what kind of dance style is this? Like, this is dope. Like just the way they pop their muscles and move their body. Like, what is this? And then that's when I delve deeper into understanding that there's different categories to dance. And that's when the whole knowledge of dancing for me came. And then ever since my freshman year of college until now, I've been trying to master the craft of popping, understanding its history, getting more involved with the dance community, and then getting involved with like knowing dancers like yourself, Nancy, and Vince. And then eventually, by performing by myself, I got into this crew called Bio Freaks, which I danced with for 3 years, and a hell of a run, a lot of performances. And then, like everyone, reality hits, then reality check hits, and I was like, oh shoot, man, I have to pay the bills. I have to make money somehow. So then I stopped dancing. And I focused hard on my education, which where graphic design comes in. And I started focusing on graphic design. And then I lost myself a little bit because I missed dancing. And then now I'm trying to get myself back into dancing again. And on the side, I'm also a speaker where I talk with students to help them give them motivation and finding values back into their choices. So I'm kind of like juggling three things. So that's what I'm doing currently.
Oh, motivational speaker.
All right. Wait, you're not charging me for this, are you? To speak?
You get on his level.
Oh gosh. All right. Well, thanks for the introduction. So yeah, the theme of today's Zoomcast is gonna be more community based, specifically to us Hmong Minnesotans or Minnesota in general. And I remember back when I started dancing, which was in 2009, 10ish. Yeah, 2009 and 2010. I, like Bert, did it because it was the cool thing to do, right? And a lot of guys like me wanted to pick up chicks with it. And Nancy did it for herself. That must be like a lady thing or something. Us guys are just greedy like that.
The opportunity.
I know,
It
right?
was getting to go out. Well, at least when we were young.
But I think something that I've realized throughout this past 10 years since I started doing this whole thing is that the kind of dance community in the world that we see now in dance is completely different than what it was back then. And I mean completely different, not just in terms of community and skills, but just uh, recognition and Minnesota on the board as a state as well, both in terms of hip hop, choreography, b-boys, all of that stuff. I remember actually, even all three of us here have certain accolades that no one will ever have, right? Like Nancy being part of the first team ever to make it to World of Dance from Minnesota, and me and Bert being part of the first team ever to make it to Prelude from Minnesota. So, it's crazy that we've actually accomplished these kind of things. And we're able to help kind of like build communities from there on out. Um, what I wanted to ask you guys and get you guys' opinions of what do you guys think like the dance community is outside of traditional dancing, of course. How do Hmong people that you've seen view dance nowadays compared to like how they used to see it back then, or maybe it's the same thing? I'll have Brett start this time.
Yeah. I think the view is still similar, especially in the Hmong community. But then as far as not just within our Hmong communities, but people our age, it's really different because, high stream media made it popular, like TikTok, all those dances. But then within our Hmong community, I think our community still sees it as just a form of what we always say, like there's no money in it. It's just what my parents would call, well, you just dance from your phone, because that's how they utilize, because all my nephews do it. So I think our community still sees dancing as something that's just like a passion or a hobby that you can't make it into like an entrepreneurial journey and career. But then as somebody who has been dancing for quite a while, I think it is possible to do it. You just have to surround yourself with the right people, and also knowing that a lot of the people that dance with growing up from middle school all the way to high school, a lot of them stop dancing and they're doing like 9-to-5 jobs, or they're doing some things that are paying the bills. But then the people that did stay dancing from when I stayed dancing from middle school until now, I've seen them now become dance teachers. They're in dance groups and they're still dancing, and they see dancing in a new light. So I think the attitude with people that with Hmong people that are my age, we see dancing differently now, because honestly back then I did just see it as a hobby, but now I see it definitely as an opportunity to grow myself, make it out of a career, do a lot of collaboration. So I think that's the mindset for some Hmong people, but the idea of it is still definitely the same.
And I wanted to actually branch off of that quickly too. That a lot of younger dancers who are like I want to say probably in the 17 age and lower, right? a lot of them don't. I mean, I hope they do. And this is not a stab at them. This is more like just two different generations here. Like a lot of them may not realize like how much they have now for them compared to like how much we had back then. Right. I remember starting out. I started off as a break dancer too. That didn't last very long, but even when I would practice dancing, I went to White Bear Lake, a suburb of white school, right? And breakdancing, when you're learning, it was honestly like feast or famine, right? Like there was no one to teach you. All you had was your crew or your friends after school in the foyer, in the cafeteria, and those were the people that you learned from. And then the only other time that you would actually learn and get better is if you went to go battle other people at from other schools at a jam. And so, but there were no private hip hop classes, right? You had the only actual hip hop person that taught back in like 2009, 10, 11 that I could think of at least was his name was he went by Pizzazz, I think. But he was like,
Oh yeah.
yeah, right? But he was like the industry hip hop choreographer or
Yeah,
teacher, right?
I
Nancy's
remember.
laughing. Right? And like literally you Google Minnesota hip hop teacher. He's the only person that ever popped up ever. Right? And now we have places like House of Dance, Cypher Sag, Be Your Best. We have, the all day studio, we have private classes, like Alex does and other people do. So yeah, it's just one of those big differences. But going back to the question though, Nancy, you can answer it now.
Yeah, I'm on the same page as Bert too. I feel like I think a lot of Hmong parents, they still think that it's nothing, or it's just a hobby, and I can vouch to that too because I've been dancing for a really really long time. So I started by 2012 and 2020, so for almost 8 years. And my parents never supported me. Even if I was an adult and I was doing my own thing, driving, paying my own stuff, my parents never supported me. Right when I got married, I remember the first thing that everyone said to me on my wedding day was, "You can no longer dance anymore." When I got pregnant, the first thing that everyone said was, "You can't dance anymore because it's not going to help you." And it's really frustrating because I don't do it for anyone else but myself. So then I'm just like sitting here like, who are you to come and tell me what I can and can't do? Because as a woman, as a Hmong woman, I guess I'm just so tired of being told what to do. Um, and it's just really sad because I think they just don't appreciate it yet, or they don't see the value in it. And that's okay because they grew up in a generation where they were never, they were taught to, you know, have kids and cook and clean. So they never actually had the opportunity to do it. So I can't blame them. The only thing that I can do is encourage the new generation to open up their eyes and say and realize that that there is a lot that you can do with dance. I have a lot of, I have one Hmong student in my class, but I know there's a lot of Hmong students at Cyberside, that Karen and David Jr. and Lou and them teaches. And I'm just sitting here like, these are the people that's going to be carrying the torch when we're gone. And in elite family, majority of us are Hmong. And I always talk to their moms and their parents, and they're always like, I want my kids to do this. And I feel like we can't change the people who are like determined. You can't change the OG mind, but then what you can do is you can change the generations. So I agree that we can't change it, but then I do, and I am starting to see a shift in how the parents are starting to realize that you can be successful and you can do something with dance. But then I feel like the older people, we have to do the hard work and we have to set role model. Because the thing is that, like, there's like the Hmong term of and it's just like you haven't seen the Yellow River to be content. But when you see us who are older seeing us succeed and seeing us doing something, I think that is going to really trigger them to be like, maybe they can do something with this. So then, yes, I do agree with Bert, but then I see that there is a slow shift in the Hmong community. And I think it's a beautiful thing too. I always tell my parents, like the younger parents or like the younger, like, the younger kids and their parents, I said, I'd rather have you here, take class, sweat, burn calories, and be fit than go out there, party, drink, do drugs, and, do things that you ideally wouldn't want to do. So that's my perspective on that question.
Mhm. For those who don't know, I think Nancy was rocking Converse under her wedding dress.
I was rocking Converse. That was my middle school goal, and I was like, I'm gonna wear Converse when I get married. And I wore Converse, and I still have that pair of Converse.
That's
Yeah,
dope.
I wanna
That's
get
dope.
back to something that you mentioned actually. After I graduated high school in 2011, 12, I mean, I graduated in 2010, but in 2011, 12, I went back to also teach a little bit of dancing as well, because our crew at the time in White Bear Lake, it happened after I graduated, unfortunately, but our crew was actually became like an official group or like a student-run group or something like that at the school. Which a lot of my crews were a year younger than me, so they were still running it. But the school, the principal, and the people there pretty much knew me enough to just let me waltz right in and do my own thing as well. So, but I remember like at the end of the year, I received a letter from one of the dancers there, and pretty much it was from a a sophomore freshman girl or something like that, and she pretty much said the typical like, oh, and I had a lot of fun dancing this and that, but it was also like uh you know uh thank you for like giving me like this opportunity to dance instead of doing something else that may steer me the wrong way, things like doing drugs, alcohol, or like just getting into trouble. And I think that's one thing that a lot of parents don't quite understand yet, is that when, like, I tell my dancers, from family as well, is like when you're here, when you're at dance practice, right, every this 3 hours or 4 hours, however many hours it was on this day, like this is your safe haven. Like I expect you and I enforce the atmosphere to be safe for you.
Mm-hmm.
And so that you're not getting in trouble either by, legally or for whatever reason.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that I pride myself in, is being able to make sure that when you're here, you can feel safe. You can be you. You can not worry about getting in trouble, whether it's legally or with your parents or with anyone else out there, right? But back then, or even now, like you two said, because things may not have changed that much, parents still see this as, I mean, you're lying.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
like, no, we're doing the opposite. Like, you don't even understand. Come on. Right?
I agree.
Yeah. And I'll quickly add to that too, Vince, because so I'm done with school and I'm working my career as a graphic designer. And even now, my mom still goes, "Oh, go mulai ako mo telingao." Telingao means like breakdancing, breaking bones. But then I'll also her no
Never heard
kumushi as like
before.
yeah. So she was like telingao, telingao. So then I told her no, I go and dance. This is what I love to do. So because all my brothers and sisters, I'm the second youngest, they didn't really have passion. So they didn't really, so my parents never knew what doing what you love meant, what passion was. And then, Nancy, you were saying earlier, our parents always saying, oh, you shouldn't, when you got married, people tell me you shouldn't dance anymore. It's like helping them because you're going to be a wife, you have to stay home, whatever the situation was. For me, it was more like, now that I have a job, I'm done with school, just focus on my job and stop dancing. And I was getting that pressure from my older siblings and my parents, so that I felt like, okay, I guess I really do need to stop. So I guess I gave in a little bit, but then it took me about like 2 years just to finally switch my mind and be like, you know what, I can do all the things I want to do. I can speak, I can dance, and I can design. I could do all of them. I just have to change my mindset and really reality check and prioritize. And then by doing that, I've been doing that for about 2 years now. And I've been enjoying it so much better because I listened and I gave up 3 years ago. And I was like, oh shoot, it's never too late, but it's all more to the individual to really balance their time to be able to do everything that they're doing. Like yourself, Nancy, you're doing so much, and that's great.
Barely breathing.
And I want to take this moment to also shout out to pretty much uh everyone who's been a part of, like, helping teach and lead the younger generation in dance as well. Because like I said, back when I started dancing, there was nobody, but now when you look at it, right, if you're 14, 15, 16, 10-year old and you want to get into dancing, there is stuff left and right now every single week. And it's like, where was this when I was starting dancing, man? Shoot. So yeah, shout out to everyone, and I believe, I could be wrong. Don't kill me for this, but I believe that even if just one person, all of this, choreography, hip hop studios classes, that we enjoy and go to, there's at least a Hmong person who is on part of the team somewhere in it, or House of Dance. You have what's her name, Bao?
Yep, Bao is the owner.
Bao, and then Riley, of course. I know Caucasian dude, but everyone loves him in the community. Yeah, he's pretty much a Hmong guy to us.
Pretty much.
Yeah. But there was also Lou with Cypher Side as well, right? Even all day, with that whole team going on there. Be Your Best, with Ashley. I mean, it's nice to see that we, yes, there are people who have moved on, but there are also people who have taken what they've learned and experienced and decided to put a lot of their energy and power into teaching, not just youth, right? Because there's a lot of other people there too, but community members, adults, and I mean, I can't even forget about like Joel and Frankie too, over at Straight Line, what they've done, not just with Straight Line, but with hip hop as well. Like, my gosh, they essentially, if we had to choose, with two people that started this whole hip hop thing, it'd be probably Joel and Frankie. Outside of b-boying, I want to say, outside of b-boying, of course. B-boy, you have a whole plethora of crews and people and individuals who really brought the scene in Minnesota, and props to them. I give them a lot of love. But do you like, of course, this pandemic really slowed things down. I talked in the last episode with Ryan and Derek about how the how COVID has impacted the dance community, and how, like, we as dancers, we're very social people. The whole idea of dancing is to interact with others, whether it be at the club kind of interaction, or like in front of a stage, or at a battle. You're dancing, if not for yourself, for other people, or a combination of both as well, right? um but once this all kind of like just blows out, hopefully soon, where do you see this whole dance scene going? Because when we think about it, like, uh in, say, like LA, for example, you have, or in just California in general, you have a lot of like mixtures of dance communities depending on where you live. Everything from Fresno is different to LA to SoCal, all of that stuff. Same thing in the Bronx, right? New York, Bronx, Madison have different communities of dance. Minnesota, we're kind of like all kind of just stuck in one community, right? Right? Just like, 10 miles apart at the most, but most of it is in the Twin Cities. Um, so after this whole pandemic kind of blows over, what do you think is expected of the dance community, or how do you think the dance community can move forward, to help grow even more? Because we're doing our best right now with like Zoom classes and limited in-person dance classes, but once everything gets back to normal, what can we do to make sure that we move forward and not take a step back? I think Nancy can start. You're part of this whole. You work as a dancer.
Yeah. I think, and I guess this is just from my perspective of being an instructor during a pandemic. One thing that I noticed is that a lot of students are starting to give up.
Mm,
Dancing is is their source of happiness. And personally, like when the pandemic hit, I went through a really like I went to deep depression. Like I had so much mental health issue because the pandemic hit me that hard. You know, you're going from dancing with everyone to dancing with no one. And I think what we need to do for the pandemic, after, you know, the pandemic blows over, I feel like it's never going to be over. COVID is always going to be here. This is just a fact. But I think one thing that we're going to have to really do is start to increase the morale of a lot of students, a lot of future younger students, because I'm starting to notice that a lot of my young students, they're starting to give up. And it's just because they don't like it in Zoom. They don't like how they can't, you know, hug their friends. They don't like how they can't do any interactions. So me personally, that's one of my biggest goals, is to increase the morale of our students again, our younger generation, because they're starting to give up, and I see it. I can see it in our friends as well. You know, my friends, we talk about it all the time. Like there are some times where you just don't want to dance anymore. There's some times where you just want to give up because, you know, it's just not the same. And yes, I get it that you are dancing, you know, when you dance for yourself, but the social aspect of it is so important that not a lot of people realize that. You know, I've been hearing mixed messages of people saying, if you want to, you know, you'll still work for it. If you really want to, you'll do it. But that's not the same, you know, like your mental thought process is very different from others. So I think one thing that we need to do is boost up the morale. And then on top of that is to, and I really want to push for this too, because I'm not for negativity, and I'm not for like toxic people, but I want to really push for the community to start loving each other even more and start appreciating each other even more. Just because everyone's morale is probably so low by now, I think one thing that we really need to do is just gather together and just really need to start like pushing out positive energy. Because right now, like, you know, and I heard this from someone recently, like maybe we need to be toxic to make the community more competitive, or make them more like, make them, you know, encouraged, which I don't think that's true. I think what we need to do is push more positivity out, because we need to unite the community again. A lot of people, they have been really afraid. I know a lot of my dancers, they don't even come out anymore because they're so scared, and that's valid, and I think we need to respect that. But once this pandemic has gone down, we need to bring everyone back together and like pretty much do like a reunion, because it's really exhausting, and this pandemic is taking a huge toll on everyone. So that's my perspective of it.
Big giant picnic at the end of this for the community.
I don't know.
But no, like
hangouts,
you know,
I don't know.
You know, studios have been hit hard all over the world. Yeah. Like a lot of studios closed down. You know, one of the most famous choreography studios in the country, Movement Lifestyle, shut down, right? Which is crazy to think about that, because if they shut down, then it's like, what can all the smaller studios do, right?
Yeah,
you know, and we try our best with like Zoom, right? But sometimes, like I said before with the other Zoomcast, like not everyone has the internet, has the the perfect specs to run video, or the space. Like I can touch my bed right here. If I were to take a Zoom class, I'd have to like wheel my chair this way and then wheel it back this way to walk across the room, or if I had to like travel for like an 8 count or something like that, right? It just doesn't work sometimes, right? I think this pandemic is definitely, for everyone, but especially for dance too, it's challenging us to find ways to like adapt and stay alive, right? If Zoom doesn't work, then what next? It's a rhetorical question, so you don't have to answer it, but but yeah, Bert, what do you think?
Yeah, so I 100% agree with Nancy too, and I don't think we know the answer, even after, if COVID, does die down a little bit. Of course, it's gonna be here, but like the answer is hard. It's like, how do we bring morale back? Because a lot of these students and these kids, when you're teaching them, they're in person, so they get that social aspect, because dancing is about communication and interaction, physical too. So then I think that morale, I've definitely am all in for it, and whatever the solution is, I'm definitely gonna support 100%. But then I do know that pre-COVID, we do usually have like a dancing town hall meeting where all the dancers usually come, and we usually meet in Hopkins at a house of dance. Maybe something like that again when things start dying down. Like, hey, welcome back everybody. Do like a quick call out. Like, what are some things that we could do to kind of bring back the community? But all I do know though is that once this pandemic does kind of cool down, like all the dancers, including myself, we're gonna be hungry, like to battle each other, because I'm hungry. Like I've been training myself. I kind of switched this pandemic to kind of like a Dragon Ball Z time capsule. I'm in a time capsule for maybe no matter like how long it is. I'm gonna train myself so that when I do go back and battle, I'm gonna be a whole different person. So I'm definitely training myself, and I'm gonna be hungry. And I know that all the dancers out there are feeling the same way. But then there are times where I'm still training every day, and I'm like, what am I training so hard for, man? Like this is not going to waste soon. So then my morale goes down, and I stop training for a good 2-3 weeks. And I could go back dancing, because what if this pandemic dies down, we are able to go back out again. So I think that a lot of there are dancers too who are just training, and they're training, but then there's no event to show it off to, because sometimes dancing, you also want to see where you are as a dancer, your progression, and where your skill set is. Because for me, that's definitely what I try to seek at, is dancing for myself, but also trying to see where my skills are at so that I can grow. So that's kind of how I'm feeling, and I'm definitely up for like morale boosting once this is all going away.
And we're not even we're just talking about like how the pandemic hit dance as a whole. We're not even talking about like individually, right? How
Mm-hmm.
it's affected people individually. And I'm sure you both know that one of our close dance community members just lost a very important person in his life very recently due to COVID. And so it's a lot of us who haven't been hit like that yet, maybe it may sound hard, it may sound bad, but like, we should consider ourselves, kind of privileged that we haven't undergone something like that before.
Yeah.
And so I think it's up to us and everyone else who have been surviving so far to really think about what we can do. I really like the idea of what both of you said, where it's like, I think every like dancer, or maybe not every, but almost every dancer, everyone who considers themselves like a community leader or anything like that, should come together and think about, what we can all do as a community to really, save it. Because Minnesota's dance community is small already, and dare I say it, it can be killed off by COVID. Like if we don't start supporting each other in certain ways, like COVID's gonna destroy it bit by bit. All it takes is uh, places like House of Dance to go bankrupt, like Movement Lifestyle did, right? And then next thing you know, all they can't support their studio anymore. Once they're gone, it's like we're back to having nothing, like
Yeah.
literally. Right? What are we gonna do when that happens? But that kind of transitions to what I want to talk about next is, you know, separating itself from the dance community, right?
Mhm.
What can, what can we do as a Hmong community to help support these arts, these dancers, right? Because we all know the Hmong community is more supportive towards the traditional styles of dancing, Hmong dancing, Chinese, uh, whatever other traditional dances you want to put in it, right? Um, Back then, 2005 to like 12, you had a hip hop competition at the Hmong New Year, even, right? Um, that was back when everyone was still just starting out, but like, eventually they got rid of that, right? A lot of people were upset, and then they decided, people wanted to like petition and have a going to get it back up rolling again, right? But then when the New Year finally did decide, okay, we want to bring it back, it was like a little too late, right? Like nobody wants to sign up to it no more. This is the beginning of like the hip hop and urban dance team era, right? That started to take off with M in Motion. So like, what can, and Hmong community is, we're really, not we as individuals, but the community is very reliant on like Hmong leaders, whether it's like the clan leaders or like just community leaders, right? But what can we or the Hmong community leaders do to help support this art that has been is becoming more relevant in the lives of especially younger Hmong people,
Mhm.
right? So what can we do as the Hmong community?
Yeah, I quickly chime in this one. I think this is a very heartfelt or like very deep conversation too. But I feel like we need somebody who actually wants to do it, like who actually gives about the Hmong community, really pushing it, because of course I want to showcase it and I want to showcase hip hop and modern dancing in our Hmong New Year's, but I know the amount of energy and time I'm gonna have to push it. It's not gonna be worth it because I myself have competed in Hmong New Year's, for 3 years, and knowing how biased judges can be or how conservative the inner circle of planning the committee is, because you're going in there with a bunch of people who's already been for like longer than you and you're a new head. Like, why would they listen to you? And because we are Asian Hmong, they're really conservative in preserving their culture, having Asian theme, Asian traditional dancing. And then even when hip hop was introduced, they had us be in the little stage, and they didn't, they saw us as like, okay, they're kids, they want one, we just give them a platform. But all the adults come over here. And even when we didn't have no hip hop, when Biofreaks, when we were competing, we were going up against like 6 groups of traditional dancers, and they are talented. And here we are, Americanized, and it's kind of like a cricket moment. But then we know we still definitely place in a certain number. But then at the same time, it's hard to do it because of the people in the organizations that host these type of events. It really takes the right person to really have that motivation and that support to do it. And it falls down to, do we want to spend that time and energy to do that when we could do our own thing, but just have the Hmong community watch and support rather than attacking it in the heart? It's kind of hard to do because I've seen it, and I think it's a like a long-term game.
And I think that experience from way back then also has made it so that people who do hip hop choreography, they also like don't want to like support the Hmong community back anymore as well, right? Like I remember a few years ago, I think this was 2016, 2017 or so. Chat hosted a hip hop competition over at their one of the chat fests over the summer, right? And I signed up to be a judge, right? It was me, Chang, Technica, and it was either Minji or City or just us two. I can't remember who it was. But when we went to go judge that competition, there were 2 teams. 2 teams. One of the teams was a traditional team who wanted to, just throw in a hip hop routine to it, and the other were just 2 girls. And truth be told, I was kind of disappointed,
Mhm.
right? I think I in my head it was like, oh wow, like finally someone in the Hmong community is doing something for the hip hop or choreography scene, whatever else that there is left. But I get there and it's like, where's everyone? Like, holy crap! Like, no, I feel weird trying to judge 2 teams, right? But
Mhm.
yeah, Nancy, you can continue on as well.
Yeah, you guys are right on. My sister is actually, she's the treasurer of the Lau family.
Mm.
And me and her, we talk about it, and I've ranted to her about it. And, you know, she did give me an opportunity to say, if you're so passionate about it, then, let me connect you with someone. And I chose not to connect with that person because I realized, I'm in the same boat as Bert, the energy that I want to, that the energy to make it happen, it's not worth it. Because one thing that I think about is the prize money. The prize money, if you look at the prize money for like the pageant, for example, versus like dance competition, it is drastically lower. And I just think it's ridiculous, because if I'm going to put this much effort into this routine or starting this thing, I expect a bigger outcome. And if you're just going to give me $300 for first place, I'm not going to make my team run a 6-month practice just for this. And then on top of that, have to go against like well-known Chinese dancers, like for example, Butterfly, Minnesota Sunshine. Like, that's just impossible. Another thing too is I really hate how they find their judges. The people who they find, the people who they pull in, they are not qualified. They don't pay their judges enough. And I strongly believe that they're just pocketing money for themselves, and they're not really doing it for the community. They're just there to get money for themselves. And I hate that, I don't remember what year was it, but they had Russ Lee judge. And I remember like we hung out with him like that same night, and he goes, I hate it. Like, he did not want to go, and he was just like, I don't want to judge, it's so bad. And I'm just here like, like, you are a prime example to why not a lot of people, because like Chinese dancers, like maybe like that's the only thing that you guys go for, it because that's the only thing that that's your goal for the end of the year, is to compete at the Hmong New Year. But I think for us hip-hop dancers, we have so much more. We're not gonna do there's so many opportunities out there for us that it's like we're not gonna do it just for the Hmong New Year. We're gonna go hit WAD, Prelude, Masterpiece, any other Monsters, hip-hop internet. There's so many competition out there where it's like I'd rather work my butt off to try to get on that stage than to get on the Hmong New Year stage and only maybe win $300 and then be judged solely be judged against Chinese dancers. I think that's really rude, and I think that is very disrespectful to the history and the art of hip-hop. And if someone do really want to push for it, I say go for it, but just letting them know they're going to volunteer a lot of their time. And if they have the passion to do it, I say do it. But, with my experience with the Hmong New Year and all the coordinators, and just how they treat us as hip hop dancers, I don't think it's worth it. And I don't think, me personally, I don't think they're ready for us. That's how I personally think. They can take on Chinese dancers and all the other dancers, but hip hop dancers, they're not ready for us. Our skills and our techniques and what we're going to bring out there is going to be something that they're not going to like. When they invited Elite Family out one year to perform, they made, they didn't give us enough ticket. They didn't give us enough parking. They invited us out. They didn't even pay us. We did it voluntarily. We bought our own ticket. We spent our own time and our own money to go there. We got there 8 o'clock in the morning, or 8 or 9 in the morning. We didn't even perform until like 9 o'clock at night. We waited 12 hours. And just after that, I'm just sitting here thinking, if I am going to put my students, my team members through this voluntarily, without getting paid and being disrespected, because we asked them every single hour, do you know when we're going to perform? Do you know when we're going to perform? What's the schedule? They were just prioritizing the pageant and the other dancers first. And it's just like, if they're just going to keep on pushing us like that the day of, never again am I going to ever put my students through this or my members through this, because it's not worth it. And that is just me protecting my members and me protecting the art of hip hop, because hip hop is something that I take very seriously. So if you're just going to disrespect me like that by keep on pushing me, making me wait 12 hours for a volunteer opportunity, and then just brush me off, I'm like, no, you're not gonna get that support from me, and I am not sorry. I feel like we need to be more unapologetic to the Hmong community, and maybe in the future we can push for it, but I think for right now, I just don't want to invest the energy in it, because I can invest it in other things.
And it just seems like every year after year, whether it's intentional or not, the value of the New Year just keeps going down.
Yeah.
Somehow, right? Like I remember
They
Shoot.
don't know how to change their mind. They're always thinking like, oh, we're gonna value and like sponsor the pageant, but then there's only like what 4 girls and like 2 boys that's pageant. It's like you're hosting your event all around the pageant. Like there are so many people who are like, we're here for the entertainment, we're here for other things, and here you are saying, you know, like hosting, like, oh my god, I can't express how long they prolong the pageant, and it's so ridiculous. And it's just like, you guys need to start changing things up, because obviously the way how you guys run thing is getting old, and that's why people don't come anymore. So that's
And
just
and I also feel like with the new cool thing right now is dancing on TikTok. And if somebody was smart enough, that is what you should leverage, is that a lot of people are intrigued in dancing. Dancing is like the new thing that even advertisements leverage influencers to do, is just dance, because that's the new cool trend in this century.
Yeah.
Oh man. Shoot. Yeah, dancers are blowing up on TikTok. It's crazy. Oh
Damn.
man.
Yeah, that's a whole different topic too.
Oh yeah.
Other
Yeah.
topics.
Yeah.
Oh man. But shoot, man. What do you guys think about if next year, you know, whether it be Hanny or what's the other one called? Minnesota New Year, Hmong Minnesota Hmong New Year.
Yeah, he's at the
Hanny,
Metro Dome.
Hmong American, which is
Yeah.
Metro, right? That's Metro, right?
Yeah, Hmong American Freedom Festival.
So yeah, whether it be Hmong American or Minnesota Hmong New Year, you know, if one of those two decide to say that they wanted to dedicate a segment for a hip hop competition, would you be? Do you think you would be interested in it? 2021 Hmong New Year's.
I would like to speak to the coordinator first, because it's for real. Like, I need to speak to the coordinator first. I'm gonna be like, okay, who's coordinating this segment? Yo, we need to talk, because we need to be on the same page. Because if you're gonna be like, yeah, I'm gonna coordinate it, but I have no experience in, like, you know, the modern dancing and stuff, I don't want it. I don't want it.
If the coordination is good and the judging is good and the prize is worthy, then definitely I might gather the boys back up for Bio Freaks.
Yeah, I'm gonna throw my girls in, you know, I'm gonna throw Elite
Yeah.
50 in it. I'm going to, you know, and that's the thing about it, is that they need to know who to talk to, you know, like whenever Elite Family, when we do our stuff, and you know, you guys seen us when we do Minnesota State Fair, we bring in everyone, Elite Family, Genovese, Gentlemen, Creature Crew, you know, and then Creature Crew, they have like mini crews, like Pixie Crews and all this stuff. We bring all of them, and it's like, let's go, all of us go in, and you know, it's such a good time, and it's just like, you know, you guys need to know the right people. And on top of that, you guys need to know how to advertise, so that we can prepare. We're not, you know, like Chinese dancers, I know that they prepare all year for it, but for us, like, we need to have a goal, you know. And like when we prepare our sets, and Vince, you probably know this, when we prepare sets, it's not, we're going to prepare to go to New Year's. We're preparing for WA, we're preparing for Prelude, we're preparing for this. And we have like specific goals to go for. So, you know, if you're going to throw up a flyer like a month ahead, it's like, that's not going to be enough time, especially if you want like a mega team or a big team. You need to give us time, because we need that time to prepare.
It's like when people come up to us and they're like, "Hey, can you and your team perform for us next week?" It's like, next week.
That's definitely happened a lot.
Yeah, it's like, shoot, do we really need that money?
I definitely do that, and they're like, by the way, it's not paid, it's volunteer, but then you get exposure, and it's like, no thanks.
Oh god damn, like I'll be honest, like people, and this isn't a stab at people who try to hire a dance team, this is just how it is. You can never afford a dance team. It costs way too much to support a dance team. You know, the gas, the practices, the 15, 20 people, you know, you split $200 between them. It's like, what, $3 or something? I don't know.
Yeah,
It's
some people get money, you know, like we lose money from performing at your event, and that's the thing that not a lot of people recognize. And you know, I really hope, you know, I get it that mega team may not be a favorite. It may be really nice on stage, but it might be not a favorite to your pocket. But I really hope, you know, in the future, people do start to appreciate more that, you know, especially for a mega team, we do a lot to get us ready, and we're not just, you know, scrambling at the end.
Oh hell yeah, my gosh. So then, what can we've been talking about like the us as dancers at our age and like the Hmong community who are of course more Hmong leaders community whatever you want to call them who are obviously way 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 older than us. But what do you think like younger dancers who are like in their teens what can they do to help maybe not ensure but like to help the dance community, whether it's hip hop, uh, choreography, whatever, outside, the dance community outside of traditional dance, what can they do to help, this community grow into hopefully, you know, getting especially getting a platform back within the Hmong community as well, to let Hmong people know this is not just an olaik art, right? This is an art that is helping people, saving people, that's, providing happiness to a lot of younger people right now, especially, what can younger people do to boost that?
Go Bert.
Yeah, that's a tough one because even me, I'm struggling to support the dance community. So imagine that someone younger than me, it's probably even harder. But I guess the only thing I can say is I encourage them to keep dancing and come out to these community dance battles. It may sound intense and intimidating, but it's really not. It's just like a social gathering for us dancers. To really come see each other dance and to network and just socialize. But like ask a buddy to go with you, because that's how I definitely got started. Is to really, I feel like in order to really know the dance community and know if you actually enjoy dancing is if two things you attend, or a couple of things, you attend workshops and you enjoy them, you attend performances, and lastly you attend a dance battle. Because I think workshops and dance battle is where you really get the meat in the culture of dancing, hip hop, urban, popping. It doesn't matter what category. That's where you really see it. So as a younger person, when you get the opportunity, I encourage you to go to it. So then that way you can really see why we as dancers love it so much. But if you're just at home doing TikTok videos, dancing, training, then you're not getting much out of that.
I think you make a very good point actually. Because a lot of people, especially when they start dancing, right, they judge their experience based off of how they feel they whether they're good or not at dancing. When you dancing and your skills in dancing is only like the top of the iceberg, right? Under the water, and that one picture, right? A lot of us stay with dancing, whether it's dancing or doing something with dance, is because of the community. Like
Mhm.
a lot of time it's not us being good at dancing is what keeps us with dancing. A lot of it is we just want to be with the community. We want to be with people, right? Um, a big reason why I am still in love with the community or with dance isn't because you know I dance, and when I dance to people who don't know dance, they think I dance good. It's not
Mhm.
that. It's I enjoy interacting. I enjoy teaching. I enjoy just this whole aspect outside of movement itself. But yeah, back to the question though. What can younger adolescent teenagers do to help the community grow? Nancy, your turn.
Um, Same thing. They need to come out and they need to be open minded. They need to come in being humbled and open to learn. I think one of the biggest struggle that I've seen with a lot of younger students, and I experienced this with my students too, is they think that they're the shit, or they think that I've been dancing for this much years, I need to teach, or I need to win battles, or I need to do this, or all this stuff, which is not the case. Dancing is really hard. It's an always constant learning skill set that you need to work on, that you need to keep on developing. And another thing too, and I can't stress enough about this, is you really need to start learning about the history of the styles and what really suits you. The reason why I say that is you gain a deeper understanding and appreciation of the styles that you're learning. A really good example is I love house. If you guys know, I love house, you know, and just learning more about it when I learned from Ozzy, when I learned from Joelle, when I learned from Jardy Santiago, and they were just telling me, like, it just made me love it even more, and it just made me, it gave me the ability to embody the style more into my body, and I think younger generation really needs to do that, and it's going to, you know, bouncing off of the TikTok. And one thing that I'm starting to notice is, like, some people, they're just jumping into it and be like, oh yeah, I'm doing this, I'm the shit, or, you know, oh, I'm doing house, I'm so cool, da, da, da. But, you know, you can do house, but then if you don't have that really deep connection, that rooted connection with it, we can see it. And I always say I can see it because, and this is just a really funny example, there was a guy who posted a video and he was like, yeah, I'm housing, I'm totally housing. He was not housing. Everyone was hyping him up, and I was like, no, that was not housing. But, like, you know, he's a Hmong dancer in the community too, and he was like praising about himself, and I'm just sitting here like, boy, you got a lot to learn. But then the thing is, you know, and that's why I always say, like, you need to really immerse yourself into the culture. You need to immerse yourself into the history and the roots of it. And, you know, connect yourself with the community. Surround yourself with people who you want to be. And be really humble, you know, work hard, stay humble. I always say that, you know, work hard and stay humble. And this is one thing that helped me a lot when I started dancing, was I always asked for feedback. Like, I remember when I was in hip hop, I always went up to Joelle and said, what do I need to work on? What am I doing wrong and stuff? And I just remember her, like, well, she would just break down things down to me. Like, when I first started doing house is hard. And, you know, she was just like, you need to do this, you need to do that, this and this and this and that. And I went to Ozzy and I was like, what do I need to work on? What is it? Like, how do you do that? And all this stuff. So they just really need to really take it, I don't say take it seriously, but that they really need to be able to really learn the techniques and the skills behind each move. And, you know, really, you know, immerse those techniques and skills into themselves. Because yeah, you can do, like, you know, the lean with the rock with it, you can groove, but if you really don't really know the technique, the skills behind it, you're not really grooving, or, you know, it's groove, but it's not really there. So that's what I always preach to my students. And the reason why I preach it to my students and I preach it to everyone else is because I put that standard on myself too. And, you know, I never want anyone to settle for less. And it just makes sense. I want them to grow and I want them to be better. And I don't expect them to stay with me forever. So then it's just like, I'm going to give you the best tool. So when you move on, I can say you moved on. And, you know, I gave you the best of my knowledge. So that's my perspective of it.
Yeah, I think a lot of people start out dancing. They do miss the history part. And I think it's important. When people join my team, you know, back when I still ran it, you know, I would always have like this segment of practice of teaching some sort of a history lesson to the class or to the team, because I think you're right. It is an appreciation that not many people have for dance, right? Because then, you know, it ruins things for the future, right? Like even now, like for TikTok, for example, right? Everything you do, it's like I made a joke in the last episode where I was like, "This is hip hop. This is hip hop. This is hip hop." When it's like, no, that's not hip hop. Stop.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's like that's why it's important to know your history and know and understand like what's happening right now. You know, like because like I said, for urban dance, especially right now, we are going to be a part of history because
Mhm.
what Ryan calls it right now, the homeless dance, because we don't have a term for it.
I agree with him. I
Right?
agree with him.
Mhm,
Like
and-
when they took out the term urban, I legit felt like I was homeless, and it really broke my heart, because something that you identify for so long, and, you know, the reason why people are saying, like, urban doesn't have a history, urban doesn't have a culture. You know, when I was talking to my friends about it, I was like, you know, actually urban does have it does have a history and it does have a culture. It's just, I don't think there's never been a leader that implemented or documented the culture of it. And the thing is, like, I've never thought about it because I never thought about documenting it, because, you know, when you live in the moment or you live in the community, you just kind of live in it. You don't really, like, I need to write everything down about, like, how the urban culture is or urban choreography is. So I agree with Ryan.
So I don't want to take too much more time because we are about running out of time right now. But so I wanted to end it with, well, not completely end it yet, but I wanted to give out one last question here, and that is, uh, what advice can you give dancers now uh, for them to cope with this whole pandemic, right? Maybe they're losing motivation right now, but they still enjoy dance, or maybe they want to get into dance, but obviously, the pandemic may not be the best time, or maybe it is the best time, just whatever advice to dancers or to newer dancers, to um, soon to be dancers. What advice would you give just for this certain time frame in our lives right now? Well, Bert, go first this time.
Yeah, I would say train. Just train yourself. Like, because I know when I first started, I sucked at dancing. I didn't even know how to do the wave and how to do it properly and everything. But then I trained myself with no judgment. Don't show it to us or anybody yet. So take this time to train yourself if you're starting and learn the moves so that when you do feel ready, the time will be there, because by the time you're ready, hopefully, COVID, everything's been kind of situated. But take this time to really just train, indulge yourself in the style, the history, like Nancy was talking about. And also, if you're a dancer like me who wants, to just kind of dance for fun, but you are tired of doing it by yourself, then record yourself and just do a 60-second video post on social, and be very open-minded and humble when you post it up, because you humble and open-minded as in, like, you might get feedback that you might not like, but you also have to be accepting of that as well. So like, dance, post it up, just so that you can keep yourself going, rather than you just dancing in your basement or garage and you go back home and nothing happens, but rather record your practice session. I know that a lot of my dance friends, they do that on Instagram. I do that myself. So I encourage dancing, record, post it up, and just keep training.
Yeah. To build off of what Bert was saying, I guess right now, I would say don't give up, because there will be a lot of time and moments in your life where you want to give up, and to let them know that they're not alone. Um, because during this pandemic, I don't know what they're going through, or I don't know how their family is going through, or who they lost, or how their education or their academic is. But I always say don't give up, and that they're not alone, and that we'll get through this. I encourage people to connect with each other, even if it's not the best and it's not the most ideal way, and to check up on each other. So maybe, if you're feeling you're not motivated, or you're feeling some type of way, check up on your friends and create a friend group. I'm really fortunate to have my bays with me, and we check up on each other pretty often. And to be honest, if it wasn't for them, if it wasn't for that dance team, I don't know where I would be right now. I'll probably given up on dance and everything, because that's hard. The pandemic is hard. So those will be my tips for everyone, actually.
All right, yeah, no, those are good tips. Those are good tips. All right. So, very last thing. Just give yourself a plug or plugs. Where can people follow you, or if you have a website, things like that. All right, Bert.
Yeah. You can follow my speaking website, where I talk about communication skills, body language, motivational speeches, at Bert Lee Speaks on Facebook, and then Instagram is just at lee.bert. And then my YouTube is also Bert Lee Speaks. So that's where I have my content, usually on just speaking, college experiences. But sometimes I slowly post up magic tricks and dancing on there.
Magic tricks.
I'm a very private person. I don't post up a lot, actually, but my Facebook and my Instagram handle is Nancy Lena Xiong. So it's Xiong as Hmong So Hmong spelling is XYOOJ. I don't post a lot because I'm very private, and I love to live in the moment. But you can follow me and see me, my family, and my kid. So yeah.
All right, well, that's great. Well, this is the end of the second episode. So for those who listen, I want to thank you guys. If you haven't yet, subscribe, give a thumbs up, follow everyone on Instagram, all that stuff, share on Facebook. What do you got to do to support? All right. Thanks, everyone.